Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I am your host, Kimberly Cloud. So, right now, what I'm going to do is I'm pulling up CTU website portal. Wow, I'm proud of myself. Wow. Let's go back to this. Hold on. So, before I show you that, I show you a brief peek at that. My teacher from this class, he said, what are some effective ways to balance work and education? I just wrote it. Not wrote it, but read it. I just read it. Don't laugh. I just read this part right here, 1 through 7. And then what so what really was very happy for me was the achievements. I was like, I can't wait to make my achievements. This was coming in, I'm trying to paint a picture. This was coming in blindsided before I pulled up the CTU website. So then I go here and I finished all my assignments and I earned an A on both. That's what it's about. Now we shall move on, shall we? I want to see his feedback so bad. His feedback is important, but it just nervouses me out. It nervouses, that's not even a word, but you get what I'm saying. It nervouses me out, dude. Let's see what he says. Okay, nothing. Okay, good. Good job here. I can't wait to hear his comments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I did it for you guys. Okay, now we move on. So now we're gonna view the details. Now we get into we're outside of the introduction. It's just like, just close your eyes with me for a second and imagine yourself on an airplane. Imagine the whole section. You you go to the airport. What happens from start to finish? You get at the airport. You check into the airport. They recognize who you are at the airport. You got to get checked in again at the airport to get to the other side. You sit in a plane or you wait for your flight. You get on a plane. You wait some more. You hear the captain. You hear the flight attendants. And then here comes the part. You did all of that getting to know part. The obviously the airport knows who you are. You can't say they don't. So they know who you are and you're known. And now it's the easy part, which is the hard part because you can risk things happening. So you ascend. You talked about who you are. You may talk to your family that's on board, however, and or you watch out the window, however, and then you're up in the air. So what's happening now is we're up in the air. It was week 2. Give me just a second, you guys. I have allergies. Yes, allergies. And at exactly 4 o'clock, I'll be off of here completely to fully clean my house from top to bottom and all that good stuff. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Cool. Okay, here we go. This is due this Thursday. Within the discussion board area, write 400 to 600 words that respond to the following questions with your thoughts, ideas, and comments. This will be the future discussions by your classmate. So he wants 400 to 500 words of my ideas, thoughts, and comments that responds to the future discussions. Definitely want to read that. More social technical systems. I can't wait to dig into this. Where's the statistics? This is just descriptive. There, no. What kind of chart is this? I forgot what kind of I forgot what kind of chart this is. I forgot. I remember. Table. It's a table. I knew it was something. I forgot. I was like, what is that? It says table 1. Okay. You can never go wrong reading. More figure 1. Okay. This one. Can't wait. Company culture is changing as new generations enter the workforce, bringing with them their experiences. Yeah, yeah. Newer generations that are entering the workforce bring with them experiences, technical expertise, because these young whippersnappers are getting savvy with technical. I looked at a chat GPT commercial and it just blew the top off my head. I was like, what in the hell of it? People are coding graphs and all types of, and I thought I was doing some stuff. I was like, whoa, what's going on? So just imagine what the younger generations are tapping into with Chat GPT. I'm just doing generic based on my arena. I haven't even begun to use Codex or code and expectations. So you have expectations to a company. There are, as a company gets older, because a 20-year-old coming into the company that stays until they're 25 comes between a crossroad if they want to stay there or not. As you get, as the time moves on, he turns 35 and he stays there. And then another 20-year-old comes in as he's 35. The expectations change. If they hire 10, 20-year-olds, and they hired 10, 20-year-olds in 95, and now it's 2005, technology is different. Arguably, companies must take advantage of a work environment that supports both cultures, good, diverse, many of people of different races and genders, and whatever ethnicities, expectations. So basically, they support the culture and the diverse expectations. Like, yeah, and the norms based on how many people they hire, why they hired them, what's the mission, and the norms of the company. What's done in McDonald's is not done the same in Burger King. Two different ingredients, same mission, the burger, as well as the benefits of integrating technology into the workspace to conduct business. Given the increased utilization of social media tools and interactions, companies can realize that the benefits of creating a robust social technical structures that helps connect team members into an online community that supports company objectives. Like LinkedIn. Discuss the following with your classmates. This is the 500. I'm going to choose 500 words to give it the Goldilocks effect. Did he say minimum? Um, Describe two common software applications. Zoom, which I can, uh, these are examples, but I can choose StreamYard and Zoom that a company can use to foster an online community of engagement. What are the two attributes of these applications you think employees use for daily business activities? Benefits and highlights. When do you, or how do the two attributes you identify help a company improve performance? How can organizations use software applications to build a culture of engagement and teamwork? Imagine the future of McDonald's versus Burger King. They know they can't literally, but it could happen. It was on a crusty crab when it happened. How AI can take over someone's job, but it's not about that. I'm trying to figure out a use for someone working at Burger King or McDonald's for the future. Probably just prepping the meat and then that will be taken over. Maybe I don't know. That's scary. That's very scary. McDonald's or Burger King jobs for the future. The only way I would see it be fit for them to leave it open for the benefit of a human body would be because they're young whippersnappers that need that experience. But if there were no young whippersnappers, they may start crunching down on the age based on sessions of talking about the future of McDonald's. They probably start wiggling the age limits or lowering, however, but it it's definitely beneficial for young whippersnappers versus um an older adult working with a younger adult. That's where uh you know no good happened out of that. But you have a I want you to I have to say this. You have an inmate coming out of jail or prison, 58 years old. I don't want to know the race. Man, did 10 years that have no outlet for a job. Then you have a 14-year-old in a middle class to upper class neighborhood, just want to work, going to McDonald's. That don't mingle, right? And it happens. And that's the only thing they would probably tweak. I mean, imagine McDonald's as a school, really, where I'm not perfect. I have a past, but not with that type of stuff, but with going to jail. And I just want to reiterate, I'm nothing like that. It happens in college, it happens in school, high school, and it sickens me. Like it sickens the FBI. I just can't do nothing about it but advocate for those people that think it's okay. That's the disturbing part. And I, I see no need for the future of mixing age groups like that because it just, yeah. So let me choose another example. StreamYard and Zoom. Well, with StreamYard and Zoom, like Zoom is more different, has different system applications than StreamYard. I've tried Zoom at first. That's what I was trying. And I really didn't like Zoom. But as more people introduced me, I had to go to court many of times and over Zoom using my computer, and it'd be like recording in progress. I'd be like, oh neat. You know, I mean, it's different because when you go into StreamYard to set up a recording, you don't have that timer that when the person comes into the session that it automatically starts recording. Those are two different, but how they can use these software applications to build culture is introduce introduce the team to your ideations, introduce the team to the social technical aspect of their arena. That that helps build teamwork. When people are restricted, like I said in my mission vision, and just blatantly telling you what it is, people restrict themselves to friends and family. They become, and it's good. That is an excellent thing. That is how we live. We must have someone or more people in our circle, whether friends or family. However, that doesn't mean that it's it. That's it. It stops there. You cannot get mad at rejection and default on your family and friends. You have to use your family and friends as a positive tool and venture out, not for anything non-benevolent to that will harm mentally and physically your family, but to introduce and learn about people. When you restrict yourself, you restrict your brain. Therefore, you restrict your limitations. You're limiting yourself. If you want to be limited, fine. But deep down inside, pause there for a second. You yearn for knowledge. Now, depending on how you were raised, you either going to resist the knowledge, but 9 times out of 10, if you're in a corporate world, the culture of engagement will interest you. It it depends on what level you're on. A corporate job is not going to hire someone that works at McDonald's unless they got a degree. They are seeking knowledge. That's why we go to school. Oh, this is the initial. It is widely acknowledged that adopting a social technical approach system development leads to systems that are more acceptable to end users, the people like me and you, and deliver better value to stakeholders, people who address, um, who invest into a company and have a stake of it. And there's more to it. I forgot the full definition. But they are the people that created it somewhat or manage it. Now I want to know. Oh, Lord. What's a stakeholder? Yeah, managers. Okay. Despite this, such approaches are not widely practiced. Yeah. We analyzed the reasons for this, highlighting some of the problems with the better known social technical design methods. Based on this analysis, we proposed a new pragmatic framework for social technical systems engineering. This builds on the largely independent research of groups investigating work design. I mean, imagine that's a fun job right there. Work design. To design your work, the work of what you want your employees to do. The information systems within those work designs, what's in the systems. So you just say you're investigating work design. You define work design is information systems, computer supported cooperative work. Um, yeah. That's where the social come in at. Computer supported cooperative. It has to be a Goldilocks effect to the computer work and cognitive. Now that you have to know psychology and coding. Let me ask Brock. Yeah, how people think. When you learn how a person think, make decisions, solve problems, and interact with technology, you can do it a lot. So first you figure out how a person thinks and you code it, which is very hard. I'm pretty sure Elon can't do it. No, I'm just playing. Elon can. Elon can. I'm just playing. I'm just making jokes. So this is on how people to code how a person thinks. It's been done. Look at Grok. Make decisions. It builds on making decisions. Like when you first get into a system for the very first time, it cannot tell you your life story. It builds on your life story decisions based on how you shift and navigate. Solve problems. That's cognitive. 1 + 1 is 2. Sudoku, whatever. And interact with technology. How does a standardized human being interact? How have they grown from the 90s? How did they grow when first Facebook app was recognized? How did they start growing when we started connecting our internet to our phones versus now? How have we grown statistically? Data. We need data. And that's what the government has. How they interact with technology, how we interact. It's been said the head of Siri took no ownership over it, but they paid us, not me included. I wanted to get paid, but when I found out $25 for $1 billion lawsuit, I was like, no, that and I'm okay with that. I can live with walking away from that because it's like, who cares? I mean, we're on gentle land, gentle, complicated land. And some people have bad intentions with this land. So why not investigate some people to see, and how many lives have been saved by the monitoring they possibly did do, and how many people have been taken out of our communities that wanted to do harm to ladies and children because of that. So I can, it's statistically speaking, how we interact with technology has advanced. But just imagine 10 years from now or 20 years from now. Who is affected? How do people think and perform tasks? Oh, stakeholder will ask who is affected. Cognitive system and engineering asks how do people think? So stakeholders is like who, what? Kimberly, is Kimberly affected? Cognitive say, how do Kimberly think and perform tasks? Stakeholder is concerned with communication, influence, and relationship. So they're more concerned with communication dialogue and the influence and relationships, which is good. That's a leadership quality. Cognitive systems engineering are concerned with the brain, the cognition, the way, how do the cognition of a typical human work, the decision and what humans do, and particularly the human that I'm trying to hire do, the workload, how much can they take? Yeah, they always paint a good picture. Well, I'm the top executive at my company and I've been there 20 years. I've heard some stories about people sleeping on a job. I heard some stories, and they don't tell you all that. He could be fired for all we know. You know, how much are they really in a new job? How much are they willing to take? Some people, they work and learn the algorithms just to cheat the algorithms. You know, how much can they generic organic workload take before they start venturing off and becoming drifters? And human performance overall. Often, stakeholder theory, often used in management and leadership, often used in engineering. That's a lot. I don't even want to get into that. That makes me nauseous hearing engineering. The closest to engineering I can try to take you is either the highest is MIT, but the generic of engineering, just imagine what a mechanic do. A mechanic is nothing but a car doctor. So imagine what brains, what you code, because all it is, all they're telling you is how they tally up data on how people think, encode it. And they do it with everything. Ever since they've been curious about the world. Oh, look at this tree. Now they got plant stem cells and stuff. It all started with one man or woman looking at a tree with great interest. 10 years from that, someone looked at a tree and defined it as a tree. 10 years from that, they started creating, started learning about the energy from the tree and all that great stuff. And now we know what to do. We make papers. But it all started with one person interest in a tree. And they wrote data on it. Someone already knew about the trees, but they laid low underground. I won't say that. I won't say that. I won't say that. I mean, we got Area 51. Come on now. Like, how do we pop up with technology like this? Think about that. engineering, aviation, above skies, healthcare, medical, military operations, and AI systems. Goal, satisfy and manage stakeholders' needs. Goal, design systems that help people think and perform effectively. So, social technical systems engineering bridges the traditional gap between organizational changes between organizations, and which is, yeah, that kind of complements it. And what is going on? And systems development using two main types of activity. So before I go any further, the social technical systems engineering complements organizational change and system development using sensitization and awareness. What are you sensitive to, and what are you aware of? What can you sense, and what are you aware of? And constructive, very organized engagement. From the framework, we identify an initial set of interdisciplinary research problems that address how to apply social technical approaches in a cost effective way, and how to facilitate the interrogation of STSE with existing systems and software engineering approaches. Yeah, you have to have, like, businesses spend money. The government, they in a deficit, put, and some are in a deficit because they're just in the deficit, but they have these huge supercomputers locked away in cool environments places. They put a lot of money into their AI. And then you got corporate world who put money into their AI. And then you got restaurants putting money into AI, but they all do it or try to do it to a cost effective degree. They go around researching people that have a good, reputable software applications system building technique thingy, and they find who has the Goldilocks effect, and they pick. It costs $50,000 to write a memoir, a good memoir on your life. But what happened a couple of years back was, every once in a while, Facebook, depending on what you're looking for on your World Wide Web, it popped up and populated that they were writing memoir books for people for like $300. But I looked up how much a typical one costs. So you have to ask yourself, what is worth it? Is that cost effective? Would you have gotten it? And how we facilitate the integration of STE with existing systems and software engineering approaches. Okay, great. Introduction. Social technical systems design methods are approaching to design that consider human, us, social and organizational factors, which is to socialize and become into an organization while socializing, as well as technical factors, the technology that's needed, that's cost effective, and the design of organizational systems. They have a long history and are intended to ensure that the technical and organizational aspects of a system are considered together. The outcome of applying these methods is a better understanding of how human, social, and organizational factors affect the way that work is done and technical systems are used. This understanding can contribute to the design of organizational structures, business processes, and technical systems. Even though many managers realize that social technical issues are important, social technical design methods are rarely used. Yeah, yeah. And I have a reason to believe they're going to start squeezing it to become mandatory, because how can you not use AI? We suspect or maybe they don't have the money. We suspect the reasons for their lack of use are primarily difficulties in using the methods and the disconnect between these methods in both technical engineering issues and issues with interactions with technical systems. The underlying premise of social technical thinking is that system design should be a process that takes into account both social and technical factors that influence the functionality and usage of computer-based systems. The rationale for adopting social technical approaches to systems design is that failure to do so can increase the risk that systems will not make their expected contribution to the goals of the organization. Yeah, that's what I was saying in my paper. Systems often meet their technical requirements, but they have the proof to back it up. I'm just thinking based on my history and common sense. Their technical requirements, but are considered to be failure. Systems often meet their technical requirements, but are considered to be a failure because they do not deliver the expected support for the real work of the organization. True. That's like if you don't if you don't find the right person, they can sell you a whole dream that they can build some type of good system for your company. And it has absolutely, you put thousands, if not thousands, into it. And it's not even worth using or utilizing because you're not internalizing and learning yourself or getting someone to help you learn about good technical systems. The source of the problem is that technical centric approaches to systems design do not properly consider the complex relationships between the organization. The technology approaches to the design does not properly consider the relationship. Exactly. The people enacting the business processes and the system that supports these processes. We argue here that there is a need for a pragmatic approach to the engineering of social technical systems based on the gradual introduction of social technical considerations into existing software procurement and, and development processes. We aim to address problems of usability and the incompatible. Oh, sorry. I'm usually used to saying compatibility, but incompatibility is, yeah, incompatible, but this, yeah, of social, technical, and technical systems development methods. So they're addressing the incompatibility of social, technical, and technical system methods. The long-term research goal is to develop a field of social technical systems engineering. By this, we mean systematic and constructive use of social technical principles and methods in the procurement, specification, the procedures, the design, the testing, evaluation, operation, evolution of complex systems. We believe that it's not enough to simply analyze a situation from a social technical perspective and then explain this analysis to engineers. We must we also must suggest how social technical analysis can be used constructively when developing and evolving systems. Many companies have invested heavily in software design methods and tools. So, social technical approaches will only be successful if they preserve. Sorry. So, social technical approaches will only be successful if they preserve what they have and are compatible with these methods. We avoid terminology that is alien to engineers, develop a approach that they can use, and generate value that is proportionate to the time invested. These are challenging objectives, and to achieve them, we must draw on research from a range of disciplines. There are at least four significant research communities that have explored and addressed social technical issues that affect specification, design, and operation of complex computer based systems. Researchers interested in work in general and the workplace. An interest in the design of work was the original stimulus, cool, for proposing social technical approaches. And research typify the approach of this community. The original objective was to make work more humanistic in the initial, this was in 1988. So researchers began to work, that have interest in work in the workplace. And it's called an interest in the design of work. That was the original stimulus. The original objective was to make work more humanistic, and initial focus was on manufacturing systems. As computers have become more pervasive in the workforce, however, the community has also examined the relationships between work and its computer-based support, noting, for example, that the computer system can shape and constrain work practices. Yeah. Researchers interested in information systems are large scale systems that support the work of the entering or the enterprise and the community recognized at an early stage that social technical issues were significant. Yeah. This community has generally taken a broad perspective on the relationships between information systems and the enterprise rather than focus on specific aspects of computer supported work. So the community has a broad perspective on relationships between information systems and the actual enterprise or company rather than focusing on specific, being specific with things or the aspects of computer supported work. Researchers interested in computer supported cooperative work. This community has focused on the minutiae of work, arguing that the details of work as understood through an ethnographic studies profoundly influence how computer-based systems are used. This triggered work in this area and was followed by many ethnographic study systems in different settings. Many of these were concerned with co-located work in control rooms, and most did not consider wider enterprise issues that affect system requirements in design. Researchers interested in cognitive systems engineering. This community exemplified by the work of Hollnagel and Woods, 2005, Woods and Hollnagel, 2006, has been primarily interested in the relationships between human and organizational issues and system failure. Their main focus has been on control systems and healthcare. And this community has not been much concerned with broader information systems. Whilst the communities had some mutual awareness, we believe that it's fair to say that there has been relatively little cross fertilization among or across communities. For example, in Mumford's 2006 review article, there is no references to the strands of work in CSCW or cognitive systems engineering, and a few references to the information systems of literature. Sitting alongside these communities with some awareness of social technical issues is the HCI research community. These areas of HCI have clearly been influenced by social technical ideas, including usability and human user centered systems design. Holistic design, for example, is identified by Gilskin 2003 as a key principle, and they note the need to explicitly consider the work context and social environment. More generally, much of the focus has been on sensitization to social technical issues. There has been little work on how these social technical issues might directly influence the design of an interface to a complex software system, understandably so. We believe this to be a significant research challenge. By the same token, some researchers in the ubiquitous computing community have been influenced by social technical thinking. Although most research in this general area focus on the development and evaluation of new technologies. 2. Social technical systems design. The social technical systems was originally coined by Emory Trust. This was like 10 years after they came out with saying AI exists. And I think it was at a MIT or something. I don't remember. To describe systems that evolve. Don't be going calling me schizophrenic because I got that wrong. To describe systems that evolve the complex interaction between humans, machines, and the environment aspects of the work system. Nowadays, this interaction is true of most enterprise systems. The corollary of the definition is that all of these factors, people, humans, machines, AI, and context needs to be considered when developing such system using STSD methods. In reality, these methods are more akin to philosophies than the sorts of design methods that are usually associated with systems engineering. S- STSD methods mostly provide advice for sympathetic systems. I got another one too. Where you at? Mm, 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 mm. Okay, I'll just let it go. Where am I at? Where's sympathetic symptoms? Right there. Only reason I'm going back to ChatGPT because he knows what I'm talking about. Because he's comparing the school sympathetic systems. What is that? Does or is it based off of the symptoms of the path of what is needed? No. Let me see. Hold on. I forgot. I left out a word. rather than come on, detailed notations and process that should be followed. The social technical system is nowadays widely used to describe many complex systems, but there are five key characteristics open to social technical systems. Systems should have inside dependent parts, which makes an independent part. The systems should adapt and pursue goals in external environments. Systems have an internal environment comprising separate but interdependent technical and social subsystems. Systems have equal finality. In other words, systems goals can be achieved by more than one means. This implies that there are design choices to be made during system development. System performance relies on the joint optimization of technical and social systems. Focusing on these systems to exclusion of another is likely to lead to degraded system performance and utility. STSD methods were developed to facilitate the design of such systems. We have restricted our scope here to the class of systems and do not consider deeply embedded systems, for example, where there usually no social subsystem involved. From its inception in the period immediately after World War II, by what is now called Tavistock Institution, until the present day, there have been okay, another. Where was this at? Dartmouth College. Some were successful, others were less so. The prevailing climate within a particular company or sometimes within a country affected attitudes towards the idea of STSD, where attitudes were positive. This led to the successful uptake of the ideas. Mumford provides a historical overview of development of STSD. The general aim was to investigate the organization of work with early work and STSD, which was in 1945. I believe they said after World War II. Let me be sure. We're 1945. The general aim was to investigate the organization of work with early work and STSD focused mostly on manufacturing, production industries such as coal, textiles, and petrochemicals. The aim was to see whether work in these industries could be made more humanistic In other words, the intention was to move away from the mechanistic view of work encompassed by Taylor's 1911 principles of scientific management, which largely rely on the specialization of work and the division of labor. The heyday of STSD was perhaps the 1970s and the early part of the 1980s. This was the time where the labor shortages and companies were keen to use all means available to retain their existing staff. Apart from the usual cultural and social reasons, companies could also see good businesses reasons for adopting social technical ideas. The XSEL Expert Seller System of Digital Equipment Corporation, for example, was developed using STSD. See Mumford and McDonald 1989 for retrospective view. It was an expert system designed to help DEC sales staff as assist customers in properly configuring their VAX computer installations. The system was a success, and it at its peak, the family of expert systems, including XSEL, that were being used to support configuration and location of the DEC VAX computers was claimed to be saving the computer tens of millions of dollars a year. Of course, it was impossible to assess the contribution of STSD to the success, but the example illustrates that social technical approaches can be used effectively in real systems engineering. By contrast, the latter part of 80s and 90s were possibly the low point of the history of STSD. The adoption of lean production techniques and business process re-engineering so you engineer something, you reverse engineer something, you engineer something, and then you re-engineer something. Re-engineer dominated and STSD was largely sidelined. However, suggested that these different methods can all learn from each other. The late 80s and early 90s saw emergence of ethnograph studies of work, qualitative research method. I would never have got that. So ethnography is used to study organizational culture. It says it right here. If I would have really thought about it, studies of work is right here. They tell you what it means if you read carefully. Stimulated by Suchman's 87 seminal research, Xerox PARC. These studies of organizational research approaches highlights the significance of social technical issues in the design of software intensive systems. The 21st century has seen a revival of interest in social technical approaches as industries have discovered the diminishing returns from investment in new software engineering methods. However, social technical ideas and approaches may not always be explicitly referred to as such. The ideas appear as areas such as participatory design methods, CSCW, in the study of organizational methods, approaches to design. Indeed, one of the key tenets of STSD is a focus on participatory methods where users are involved during a design process. However, these methods are all of which have roots of STSD differ in important respects. Participatory design, which covers a whole range of methods, often involves the users or representatives effectively, effectively moving into the territory of the system developers for the duration of the project. By contrast, empathetic design and contextual design, which reflect STSD ideas, adopt the inverse view and put the development or developers into users' world as a part of the development process. The field of CSCW came about partly in response to a need to discuss the development of group support applications, but it has implicit roots in social technical thinking. They make the link explicit, dealing with social technical hold up system and CSCW as does not recent special issue of the journal Computer Supported Cooperative Work, which deals with CSCW independently in healthcare systems. The field of dependability, also intrinsically concerned with social technical systems. Although the field sometimes uses the term computer-based systems to refer to social technical systems. STSD methods continue to be advocated for systems development and appear to be particularly suited for some application areas. Since the late 1990s, for example, STSD have frequently advocated with health information for the development of healthcare applications. Many such systems are underutilized because they introduce ways of working that conflict with other aspects of the user's job. Or they require changes to procedures that affect other people's responsibilities. Okay. One of the keys to developing systems that are acceptable to users is detailed understanding of underlying work structures. In other words, what is required is a social technical approach Most recently in the UK, the need for STSD has been highlighted by issues surrounding National Health Service ongoing national program for the informational technology. For a commentary on the program, even though many of the developments to this date with NPIT have been imposed in essentially top-down manner, there are still areas where there is a role for STSD, even if only at a local level. Although the vast majority of applications have been implemented in the workplace, social technical ideas are equally applicable in other settings where technology is deployed. In recent years, there's been an increasing uptake in technology in the home, particularly as the smart home technologies and assistive technologies. The requirements for home-based systems are somewhat different from those in the workplace systems. For example, develop a mod for Somerville and Dewsbury, for example, develop a model for the design of dependent domestic systems, which adopt a social technical view in which the system comprises the users, the home environment, and the installed technology. Social, when was this? 2007. Okay. Social technical systems design approach. Social technical systems design has been manifested in a wide range of different methods. Different traditions develop in different countries, different times have led to different approaches. Mumford, 2006, for fairly comprehensive historic view. The individual methods, to some extent, reflect different national cultures and approaches to work and work organization. The consequence has usually been that each method is tailored to a particular market, which partly explains why there have never been any significant or successful attempts to integrate approaches to create a more generalized standard method of STSD. There has been limited transferability in available methods. In general, those who develop a method have had more or most success when applying it. In 1983 and 5, for example, was the mostly used in the US when Mumford worked directly with organizations based there, such as DEC. As the nature of the different markets changed, the methods have not always kept pace. In some instances, the methods have been reactively refined ethics. For example, has recently been paired with agile methods of software development. In most cases, however, there has not been any reconsideration of the role of the earlier fundamental notions of STSD. So, what I'm going to do is this. I would love to read this whole thing, but I don't have to turn this in until Thursday. However, I wanted to break it in a little bit and read it a little bit. This is something that I need to read on my own, and I'm going to start at approaches. And when I finish it, I'll go back and skim through it. But I really want to read it. It would be a disservice to myself if I don't read it. Big disservice, to just skim and not read. So I will read, you know. Let me put a pause on it here because it's not all made to read in one swoop. This is a peer-reviewed article, which is harder than a standardized book sometimes. And that's the project. So I can't wait to read through that. And that's due. When is it due? Let me try to guesstimate. I'm gonna think it and then see. Well, I was wrong. I have no reason to lie. Okay. Cool. This is the discussion board, which I read some of it, which is right here. It's due. And I'm on my 4th page out of 14. It's due June 18th, which is in 4 days. The individual project is due in 7 days. So I just wanted to break it in a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay, let me go ahead and get off of here. Um, and that is what I did. I went on ahead and started to read and proceed to read the project of week 2. It's 5 weeks. Every 5 weeks, it's a new class. And the anticipated graduation date is November 2026. And I'm definitely going to the graduation if it's in December. Let me see when the graduation is. And then it's off to a new school. This can make news, what I'm doing. They say mother and daughter graduates with masters. Mother and daughter graduate with doctorates. This is going to be my 3rd master's, and I've taken a doctorates class and gotten an A. One doctorates class. Ooh. Ooh. I'm okay with that. How about spring? And it will be right where I need to go and rebuild my authority in. Mm. You know, I could have early graduated this month. Believe it or not. I don't know how I'm about to do this. Now, a lot of stuff is racing through my head. There's no way I can make it out there. June 26th of this year. However, I gladly wait till next year. I still get my certificate prior, but that give me a little bit more time to prepare. And if it's in Loveland, which I was homeless in Loveland, Colorado, the police took me to Loveland, Colorado to a shelter. It would be amazing to get a better, more productive, useful view of Loveland, Colorado. When is the next graduation after this June graduation? Probably not until June 2027, which is scary. Hmm. You know, even weirder is my dad's birthday is on June 27th, and my son's birthday is on June 28th. They were going to take him out June 27th, but they took him out June 28th because his heart rate dropped. Anyway, next year, June 27th, 2027 is, and that gives me more than enough time to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. Okay. Okay, y'all. I'm done. I'm done. Okay. You got me. I'm doing too much. You got me. I'm about to get off of here. It was a pleasure. May God bless you and your families. You see how you give positivity? Start off small, give a small bit of positivity and see how that goes. You may get rejected, and that's okay. Don't take offense to it. Keep doing it. And it goes a long way because somebody could be suicidal out there. Remember, God loves you. Take care. Bye. I'll be back on here later. Bye.